Oh, still single at your age? How pathetic, especially for an old maid like you. I remember the time I met my ex-husband at a fancy Chinese restaurant. Despite his persistent sarcastic remarks, we exchanged words. Then, out of nowhere, my sister, who had eloped with someone else, appeared. When my ex-husband announced his intention to marry her, I couldn't help but laugh mockingly. "Oh, didn't I tell you?" I exclaimed, feeling on top of the world. Caught off guard, my ex-husband was speechless as I made a sharp, talking confession. My name is Michelle Smith, a 39-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband, Mike, who works in the transportation business, for about 2 years. We initially met at work, where I was an office clerk. Mike's lively and cheerful demeanor caught my attention, prompting me to make the first move. I found his easygoing and manly charisma very appealing, and it was love at first sight. Upon expressing my feelings, he reciprocated, and we got married within a short span of 6 months. However, the person I thought was kind and pleasant transformed after our marriage. Married life turned out to be much tougher and more painful than I ever imagined. Mike, a light truck delivery driver, would shower me with abusive words, and at times, his actions made me feel dehumanized. Every day became gloomy, and I gradually began to fear him. Mike's job required delivering loads to various places in a single day, so he usually came home in the evening. Early in our marriage, I expressed my desire to work, wanting to contribute to our finances and save more, especially if we planned to have kids. However, when I brought it up, Mike, possibly due to being drunk and overreacting, slammed his beer glass onto the table and started berating me. "You saying my earnings aren't enough, huh?" he yelled. Terrified, I tried to placate him, explaining that I only wanted to avoid being a burden. His reaction was intense, making me feel like he was ready to hurl the glass at me. No, I just don't want to be a burden to you, that's all," I pleaded, realizing the difficulty of navigating our tumultuous marriage. After marrying Mike, I discovered that he harbored extreme paranoia and wild mood swings, aspects of his personality I had never witnessed during our dating days. This revelation was unexpected and raised the unsettling question: could I truly spend the rest of my life with someone exhibiting such behavior? The thought heightened my anxiety. Another incident further fueled my concerns. "I'm truly happy Michelle married into our family," said a relative during a Thanksgiving gathering at my in-laws' house. Mike rarely brought girlfriends home, so there had been worries he might never marry. My in-laws were genuinely kind and doted on me. Their joy at our marriage was evident, treating me like a cherished daughter. Despite the challenges in my married life, one consolation was dining out with my in-laws. However, during a family reunion in front of them, Mike began mocking me. "Must be nice, huh? Having a beauty like Michelle. Look at my wife. See that flabby belly of hers," he remarked. A male relative joined in the banter, drawing laughter from the crowd. His wife playfully pinched his belly, adding to the light-hearted atmosphere. Unexpectedly, Mike turned the tables and decided to poke fun at me. "What are you talking about, uncle? Michelle looks so childlike, hardly womanly. Your wife looks way more elegant and mature," he declared. I was left speechless by this unexpected comment and revelation. The male relative tried to defuse the situation, saying, "Come on, cut it out." But everyone seemed to find it hilarious. The only ones who looked concerned were my in-laws. To help me escape the uncomfortable scene, my father-in-law instructed, "Michelle, go to the kitchen. Help my wife with dinner preparations." Grateful for the reprieve, I followed his guidance, seeking refuge from the awkwardness that had unfolded in front of my in-laws. I hurried to the kitchen, my mother-in-law by my side, tears streaming down my face after the overwhelming incident. My mother-in-law comforted me with the tenderness of a real mother. Meanwhile, my father-in-law stepped in and chastised everyone, insisting on their apologies. All complied except for my heavily intoxicated husband, who remained defiant. Why should a husband apologize to his wife? That's why Dad always gets ridiculed by Mom. Can't you have some dignity? He argued, sparking a father-son confrontation. The gathering ended prematurely that day, and the relationship between my husband and his father deteriorated. Subsequently, my visits to my husband's family home became infrequent. Life after that became a living nightmare. I lost my only source of joy and started feeling weak and lost each day. Even simple daily chores felt monumental. Whenever my husband recalled that day, he would shout at me, blaming me for the humiliation he faced in front of everyone. Fearful of his temper, I lived in constant anxiety. Residing on the 10th floor of an apartment building, I'd often contemplated whether jumping would provide an escape from my misery. When mentally drained, making rational decisions became challenging, and I felt precisely that way. In one of these desperate moments, my sister paid me a visit. "You haven't been in touch recently." I got worried, Michelle. "You look awful," she exclaimed. Catherine, my elder sister, 3 years my senior, worked night shifts in her previous job and was highly sought after, possibly because she looked much younger than her age. Her unannounced visit was rare, and it turned out she was in the neighborhood checking on the renovations of her new club. "Something happened with your husband?" she inquired. My sister and I were inseparable growing up, and when I got married, nobody was happier than Catherine. Catherine cried tears of joy and celebrated with me like no other. "I just want to disappear." "Wah, what happened?" she exclaimed, witnessing the distraught look on my face. Tears welled up in my eyes as I shared the painful situation I was facing. Every day felt like an emotional prison, with my husband subjecting me to abuse, causing pain and despair. There were moments when the weight of it all made me contemplate ending it all. Overwhelmed by my struggles, Catherine, after hearing my story, showed visible anger. She declared her intention to confront my husband right then and there. However, the mere thought of the potential repercussions made me even more scared. Tears streaming down my face, I pleaded with her not to take such direct action. Seeing my reaction, Catherine regained her composure and began brainstorming possible solutions. After a moment of silence between us, something seemed to click in Catherine's mind. With a bright expression, she whispered a plan into my ear. As I heard her proposal, I exclaimed in surprise and questioned if she was out of her mind. "You think that'll actually work? Who do you think I am?" I asked skeptically. Catherine, with confidence oozing from every pore, assured me of her trust in her plan. Despite my lingering concerns about potential risks if the plan were discovered, she made me realize the importance of wanting to break free from the torment. Unable to make a decision, I looked to Catherine, who turned serious and told me that ultimately the choice rested on my courage. Encouraged by her words, I made up my mind and agreed to her plan. From that day on, Catherine visited nearly every day. Recognizing that emotionally abusive individuals often act differently in public, she believed that her presence would prevent my husband from further mistreating me. Initially, my husband seemed uncertain about Catherine's frequent visits. Yet, he seemed to enjoy the drinks they shared every evening, gradually warming up to Catherine. With her careful planning, Catherine ensured Mike drank enough to get really drunk and stayed with him until he fell asleep. "You're always joining me for drinks, so feel free to stay the night anytime." Mike, now quite fond of Catherine, began to show her affection he never displayed towards me, even trying to stop her from leaving. However, Catherine always declined his offer with a polite smile, assuring him she'd be back the next day. For Mike, time with Catherine seemed like a dream. He was so enchanted by her that he appeared to have forgotten all about me. However, when Catherine's shop was about to have its grand reopening, an unexpected incident occurred. Out of the blue, Mike declared, "I'm divorcing you." Shocked by his words, I demanded an explanation for such a sudden decision. His cold response shattered me. "I've found someone I care about more than you. I want to be happy with her. I want you to leave." I flat out refused to accept his selfish reasoning. Despite my refusal, Mike seemed to have anticipated it. He coldly mentioned hiring a lawyer, and a meeting with a lawyer took place a few days later. Even there, Mike hurled unbelievable accusations at me. "You just want money, right? Do you want the property? I'll give whatever you ask, so let's end this in front of anyone." It was clear he no longer had feelings for me and was willing to pay a hefty sum to expedite the end of our marriage. The lawyer, perhaps feeling uncomfortable, presented me with the average amounts for such cases. Realizing the futility of resisting, I lowered my head and accepted the divorce terms. "Fine," I muttered, acknowledging the harsh reality of our shattered marriage. Despite Mike's obliviousness and elation at the prospect of a smooth divorce, I demanded the division of the property. It seemed like he believed he could effortlessly earn it all back. Watching him with a mysterious smirk, I let the divorce proceedings unfold without him catching on. As the divorce proceedings began, Mike's parents, who were initially opposed to it, later firmly stood against their son's decision. When we went to inform them, they shouted at Mike and spoke in my defense. His mother, Tay, tried to convince him, while his visibly angered father scolded him. However, Mike dismissively responded, "It doesn't matter if you accept it or not. She's already agreed to it because you pushed her into a corner with lawyers." His parents' desperate pleas seemed to be just noise to him. Annoyed, he declared, "People like you are so damn annoying. I'm done with her. I'm going to marry someone I truly care for and be happy. Stop nagging me." Completely enraged, Mike shouted back in defiance. Unable to accept his decision, his parents disowned him on the spot, and Mike left their home, apparently eloping with his love interest. Half a year later, as I dined at an upscale Chinese restaurant, invited by someone, a familiar voice called out to me. To my surprise, it was Mike. I had stepped outside to make a call and bumped into Mike in the hallway. "Long time no see. Didn't think you were still around," he said with his condescending tone that hadn't changed. My face must have shown my disgust. And he challenged, "What's with that face? If you've got something to say, spit it out." Despite being in a public place, he still looked down at me with cold eyes. I held back my anger and turned my face away, attempting to act indifferent. "You're acting all high and mighty when you can't even stand up for yourself. Did you manage to find a boyfriend after our split?" Mike mocked my demeanor, sneering at me. I regretted not realizing this side of him sooner, having only witnessed it after our marriage. Without confirming if I was in a relationship, Mike continued to taunt me, saying, "Really, still single. Pretty pathetic for an old hag." Just as I was about to respond, Catherine, my sister, walked into the store, calling out to both of us. Mike seized the opportunity, announcing, "Perfect timing. I was just about to share some news with Michelle here." His smug look was almost disgusting as he snaked an arm around Catherine, drawing her close. Unfazed, I stood there, watching the scene unfold with an icy-cold gaze. Mike declared, "I thought I'd tell her first that we're going to get married." The smug grin on his face suggested he felt he had won at life even more than before our split. As he pulled Catherine even closer, ready to share his supposed triumph, I interrupted. "Michelle, didn't expect to see you here," Catherine said, not letting Mike's actions fluster her. His arm around her, Mike peered into my face with a triumphant expression. Before I could say anything, he dropped the bombshell. "We're going to get married." His words were met with a smile from Catherine, who gently shook off his arm. Mike's face turned into shock as he tried to comprehend the situation. "I'm sorry, but I can't marry you," Catherine calmly stated, leaving him bewildered. "What do you mean? Didn't she tell you?" I added, feigning mock confusion, relishing every moment of his confusion. As I joined my sister, we exchanged amused smiles. Witnessing this, Mike struggled to understand what was going on, his words coming out jumbled. "Was this all just a play, thanks to Catherine? I received quite the alimony from you, really grateful for that. Rejecting your initial proposal for divorce was all part of a plan to get as much property as possible from you. It was all Catherine's idea. I was eager to divorce, but didn't want to raise suspicion, so I played along. No way Catherine would say that, why not?" Struggling to come to terms with the truth, you babbled on, refusing to believe my words. I tilted my head in confusion and asked, "Why do you say that?" Why would Catherine say something like that? She said she's going to marry me. Well, if you took my sales pitch so seriously, I was just doing my job, entertaining a client. Catherine responded to your comment, her brows furrowed, feigning concern. She touched her cheek with an exaggeratedly innocent gesture, sighing softly as she spoke. I only entertained you as a client. I never had any feelings for you. I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong impression. So you've been fooling me this whole time for the past 6 months. You were such a valuable customer, you said, always trying to one-up everyone. My sister spoke mockingly, with a derisive laugh. It was kind of cute, actually. Completely fooled by her theatrical performance, you displayed your anger and raised your voice, despite being inside a shop. Those sharp words from my sister infuriated you, and you began breathing heavily in agitation, while cautiously watching out for any signs of potential physical aggression. I discreetly reached for my phone. Keeping up the charade for half a year had been hard, but thankfully, you're simple-minded. It wasn't like I could just stay married to you. In truth, my sister was already married when I was with you, and she has a husband who works as a bodyguard. To ensnare you, my sister persuaded you by saying she was also going to get a divorce. From your perspective, who had never been popular in your life, the fact that someone was chasing after you so much was a delightful feeling. At the same time, you reveled in the superiority of being able to take someone away from another. Essentially, you fell right into my sister's trap. So, about you taking time to get that divorce, that was obviously a lie. As you can see, my marriage is perfectly fine. At that moment, a man emerged from behind, walking towards us with a smile. Pleasure to meet you. Seems like my wife has been causing you some trouble. You couldn't be serious. This was my husband. I invited him today to introduce him to you. My sister, with her radiant smile, made a point to show off by linking arms with my brother-in-law, exuding happiness. You looked dumbfounded, your face a mix of anger and sadness. It's a shame, isn't it? Wasting half a year only to end up being thrown out of your own home. It's so pitiful. I can't even bear to look. As you seemed dazed from the shock, you tried to lash out at me, reaching to grab my collar. However, my brother-in-law swiftly intervened, handling you like you were a mere child. What do you know about what I've gone through this past year, chasing after her? Do you understand? I don't, and I don't want to. You play with people's lives and then act all high and mighty. Do you understand how much pain you've caused me? Facing your aggressive stance, my voice broke with anger and tears as I finally let out all the frustrations I'd bottled up. The way you ridiculed me in front of our family, your attitude towards your in-laws, all your actions during our marriage, I will never forgive you. You're going to get a taste of hell. I then turned around and called out, "Please come out." Emerging from the room behind me were not just your parents, but also my own parents and even your relatives. Now, everyone can see your true colors and just how pathetic you truly are. Ignoring your questioning gaze, I played a voice recording I had received from my sister. It had you speaking to her in a disgustingly sweet manner. Are you really going to break up with Michelle? Of course, I don't need someone useless who can only do house chores. I prefer someone mature and attractive, like you, Catherine. Your sleazy voice was so palpable that it made my skin crawl. Even though it was nauseating to hear, I did not stop the playback. In front of the entire family, you were being made an example of. Don't you love Michelle? Someone asked. Of course not. She's nothing more than a maid to me. I only married her because she would be a notch in my belt. No emotional connection there. Everyone present was visibly repulsed by your comments. You started to create a scene, demanding the recording be turned off, but my burly brother-in-law wasn't having it. He restrained you effortlessly, ensuring you couldn't interfere. She's so obedient, just a little threat, and she'll do anything. She's more like a servant, someone I can throw away anytime. I have no attachments to her. Having heard the evidence of the emotional abuse you directed at me, your in-laws were furious. Everyone present unanimously criticized you. You're a disgrace to this family. How could you say such things about your dear wife? You're pathetic even for a man. I'm embarrassed to even call you family. As everyone looked at you with contempt, I spoke coldly. Nobody's on your side anymore. Stay away from her family. I never want to see your face again. Having masterfully executed this public reprimand, I stopped the voice recorder and asked my brother-in-law to throw you out. You tried to retaliate, but to no avail. You were forcibly ejected from the premises. After that, the store was locked up, but you made a scene out front, demanding it be opened. Eventually, you were reported and taken to the police station. My sister and I, having exposed your wrongdoings, gave each other a high five and shared our joy of having achieved our revenge. It felt like a celebration as we ordered food at the restaurant and everyone showed sympathy for the hardships. I had endured so much, but reserving the entire place for our gathering was the right call. Everyone could relax and enjoy without feeling restrained, as my sister Catherine had wisely arranged. I expressed my heartfelt gratitude to Catherine, who had supported me through everything, and we savored a meal together for the first time in a while. So I got my revenge on my ex-husband. After that, it seemed like he was almost stalking Catherine, got reported to the police again, and apparently my brother-in-law Mike gave him a taste of his own medicine. Following that incident, Mike was too scared to show his face around my brother-in-law. 13 years have passed since then, and now, I handle the accounting at Catherine's store. I'm still in touch with my ex-in-laws and occasionally dine with them. I'm deeply grateful to Catherine for helping me out of my shell, and I'm determined to repay this favor someday. With that thought in mind today, I'm going to work hard alongside Catherine.